Hi guys, my name is Sarah Quattrocki. I'm a medical illustrator here at HCG, and I would like to talk to you about the fact that I have Crohn's disease. I was diagnosed with Crohn's at 8 years old, which is very young. Most people who get diagnosed with IBD are usually diagnosed around their early to mid 20s. From there, I was on maintenance meds until around high school when things really went sideways. My body started kind of progressively breaking down in a number of ways. By the time I had reached my sophomore year of high school, I couldn't stay above 90 pounds to save my life, no matter how many milkshakes my parents brought me. And I eventually ended up needing a feeding tube that went up my nose, down my throat, and into my stomach. I ended up needing to go to the emergency room for a full blockage of my large intestine. So essentially my colon, large intestine, had become so inflamed that it had sealed itself off. I happened to have the first of my final exams the next morning, and I was promptly informed by the ER colorectal surgeon that I was not allowed to leave because I was at risk for rupture, sepsis, and then potentially death. So that was a no-go. From there, I was stuck in the hospital for about a month, after which time I left with an ostomy, an ileostomy specifically. If you don't know what that is, an opening that they make in your abdominal wall where they pull through part of your intestine to make an alternate exit for physical waste. It's how I poop. People get a little weird talking about it, understandably so, but I think it's important to talk about because the reality for me was medication didn't do it for me in any way. I was on the strongest biologic injections, IV treatments, oral medication, and I would fail them all, aka my symptoms would return within 6 months, which is not the case with all IBD patients, so just putting that out there. But I did, and I have to say, an ostomy, while it is a big life adjustment, especially for an 18-year-older at the time who was supposed to be about to go off to college, it's an adjustment, but I would say it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. In terms of living day to day with an ostomy, the adhesive that keeps the ostomy to your skin breaks down over time. And the more you sweat, or the more you get wet, or just the longer you're able to wear it, the faster the adhesive breaks down and you have to change the bag. It can be a real struggle day to day, kind of maintaining the ostomy in that way. You have to keep it clean, you have to keep the skin around it extremely dry and kind of well maintained, or else you can get kind of a spiral effect of really bad skin issues that are just so hard to clear up. So thankfully, I haven't had to deal with any of that. Again, I have like a low maintenance ostomy, so I feel very lucky in that regard. With ostomies, the bags themselves only come in one color, and I'll cop to the fact that it's super nice for me because it's my exact shade of pale, but so many people have ostomies for so many different reasons. Like, I just don't understand why we can't make the bag in a range of different skin tones if we can make Band-Aids in all different color skin tones now. There are a lot of misconceptions about Crohn's and IBD kind of on the whole. Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and indeterminate colitis. All of these are autoimmune diseases. They're all basically dealing with a dysfunction of the body's immune system, and my cells basically, specifically in my GI tract, my digestive tract, attacking themselves and thinking that they are foreign body invaders. And so what that leads to is extremely painful inflammation in the digestive tract that can impact your body's ability to pull nutrients from food. My gut was so beaten up that I was almost absorbing nothing from the food that I ate. And so I had really bad weight loss. You know, people think that with IBD it's just pain or urgency going to the bathroom, but when you kind of have that lack of nutrients, it actually cascades through a bunch of other systems in your body. So at a very young age, I had arthritis, I was anemic, chronic fatigue, to the point where I would have to, sleep more during the day than I was awake. All of these other associated problems start to arise when your body isn't being fueled properly. We deal in remission and flare-ups being a particularly punctuated period of symptoms. Thankfully, right now I am in remission, but the main thing is this is a chronic condition, which means I will live with it my entire life. There's no cure. We can only manage symptoms and work towards prolonged periods of remission. I had my ostomy surgery right before I graduated high school. I could finally eat basically whatever I wanted for the first time in my life, and that led to me eating chicken nuggets and root beer floats for basically every meal in the dining hall. I have no good habits surrounding taking care of myself physically in terms of working out or a healthy relationship to food. When I was younger, I had brittle bones from lack of calcium, all these things. Like, I couldn't work out. I wasn't allowed to eat vegetables for the majority of my life because the fiber is really rough on your system. So no vegetables as a kid. And now at 27 years old, I'm trying desperately to teach myself how to eat vegetables, like it, have a balanced diet. I would say the most difficult thing about living with Crohn's disease is definitely the uncertainty. For the first half of my life, Crohn's took up so much mental space, kind of like a day-to-day hope that I can make it to a friend's birthday party, and if I can, hope that I'm functional enough to enjoy it enough to go home early or anything like that. So for those first couple of years, it just took up so much space in my life. And now I go to therapy more to just learn how to be an adult living in the world who doesn't have this big thing sitting on my shoulders kind of dictating how I live my life. And so I find it really helpful in that respect, kind of not letting Crohn's be the focus of my life anymore and choosing what kind of a person I want to be and how I want to live my life. So highly recommend it for a number of reasons for everyone. I say I want to be a spontaneous person and take advantage of everything, that life has to offer, but within reason. Like, I must maintain a stable job that provides quality healthcare coverage, or else I am screwed. So that's always kind of like a lingering fear. But in terms of like future fears, I fear, and I've kind of grappled with it more in recent years, being a mom. I do worry that getting pregnant could set off a flare for me, and the potential that I won't be able to be a fully participative, active mom in the way that I would want to be. And because there's a genetic component with IBD, the thought of passing that on to my own children, that to me is probably my biggest fear for the future. As a medical illustrator, my job is basically to bridge the gap between our medical and creative departments, help create any custom HCP or patient education materials for the various pharma agencies we work with. And for me, I did undergrad and then I went straight into my master's. Working at HCG is kind of like my first on the path of my career full-time job. And I tell my parents all the time, I don't think I could have gotten luckier in that sense, because everyone's just been so supportive. When I started, I had just had what was like, knock on wood, hopefully my last surgery. I had planned that I would move out of Chicago where I was doing grad school and I would move to New York. 6 weeks from then, that would be enough time for me to heal post-op, and then I would be on my way to starting my career, which is basically how I've dealt with my Crohn's my whole life. I was like, time waits for no woman, and I am just going at it. 2 weeks into starting at HCG, I ended up in the emergency room because of post-op complications. You know, no one wants someone that comes right out of the gate in a new position with so many problems, and like the complete opposite happened. Everyone was so supportive. I ended up having to kind of cop to the fact that I have Crohn's, I have an ostomy, give a rundown of my medical history, and people sent me cards, food. These people didn't even know me. Like, I had barely started at the job. It was just so unlike what I was anticipating. I think working in, you know, a medical communications agency, working with pharma clients, parts of the body are almost like interchangeable parts on a car. And so learning about how all of those pieces work together and then being able to illustrate them, you know, in kind of beautiful, attention-grabbing ways using fine art skills, I was like, what could be better? Literally nothing in my book. I would never wish this on any child, absolutely not, but I actually tend to be super thankful that I was diagnosed so early because I've grown with it. So generally when people are asking me about my disease or they're just curious and want to learn more, I try to explain it in a way that kind of puts maybe some of the more gruesome details on the back burner, be super matter of fact, be down to answer anyone's questions, and don't treat it like a big deal. And then whoever you're talking to won't treat it like a big deal. In me talking to everyone today, I would just kind of hope that this lets you know that if you know someone with this in your life, coming from a place of just wanting to learn more about them as a person and wanting to know just about their day-to-day life for their well-being and your relationship with them, I think that's kind of the best way to tackle things. If your loved one is dealing with IBD and you're just really trying to figure out how to take this in or how to be most helpful to them, YouTube, Instagram, there are a ton of people talking about their personal experiences with this. So with that, I'll just say thanks for watching. Hopefully you found some of this educational, informative, at a minimum entertaining. But at the end of the day, I hope you just learned something about IBD or Crohn's disease and hopefully can take that and use it to help someone in your life, or if you're an HCP, maybe you're using it to help your patients. But thank you for your time.